Hello, Makuraku here. I've just had a request from someone called Lauren. She's asked, can you please do a video on Cancer and Scorpio compatibility and on the love life and such, as well as whether they have a lot of fights and such? Well, to be fair, most sources will say that the Cancer and Scorpio compatibility is fantastic and that it's really, really good. Whereas in truth, it is actually rather chaotic depending upon how you handle the whole relationship. Most of the time, it's the emotional connection is what draws both the Scorpio and the Cancer towards each other. But it's that emotion that can also cause the issues. For example, the emotional power of the Cancerian can push the Scorpio away due to most Cancer people being very emotional in the negative sense when they get upset easily, and that they can tend to be rather demanding due to this upset nature. But that's not to say that the Scorpio doesn't also have emotional drawbacks, in the sense that within the relationship the Scorpio can become rather moody or rather negative in the sort of hostile sense, which means basically they can pull themselves away, or while they're being pushed away by the Cancer, they can run away a bit further, making it a little bit more difficult. That's not to say that the emotions are a huge problem within the relationship. They can become very, very positive. For example, if you think about the emotional context between the Cancer and the Scorpio's fireworks, if they're positive, they can go up with a perfect bang and make a pretty fantastic artwork. However, if there was some negativity, something goes wrong, they blow up, cause a mess, and cause a lot of trouble, even for those around them. In order to make the relationship work, both sides need to control their emotions and understand each other emotionally and logically. This means putting aside your emotions and accepting the fact that each of you will have different feelings about each other. Well, not necessarily different feelings in the sense when it comes to romantic feelings. I'm saying more like other emotional influences, such as like whether you like something about someone or dislike something about someone. That does not necessarily mean they don't like you as a person. Now, as with most relationships with Scorpio and Cancer, it's a lot of work, in particular because they are very emotional signs. It's a case of you've got to take time to be patient, to understand each other, to be able to get in tune with each other and be allowed to express yourselves and make the fireworks go off with a pretty bang. This can be said with most relationships, that most relationships are hard work, but anyone who has been in a rather emotional relationship can find that the deeper the emotions, the harder it can be. If the relationship is disbalanced on either side, the potential for fights can be quite high. As a personal example, quite a few years ago, I used to go out with a Cancerian. She was a hypochondriac. She used to think that she was ill all the time when she really wasn't, and she used to think that she was suffering pain that wasn't actually there. And it used to drive me mad because she'd get emotionally upset and become slightly attention-seeking and very needy, which drew me down, which weighed me down and made me really, really resent the fact that she was being like this. That doesn't mean to say, obviously, the emotions weren't positive for some cases. Obviously, you can be positive with the emotions, but it's a case of you have to maintain the emotions and make sure they're more realistic in a sense of logic. I mean, usually people say don't mix emotion and logic, whereas it does actually work a lot more effectively in the Cancer and Scorpio relationship. When the fights are going through and such, the best way to control them, make them less argumentative, is to basically calm down, put your emotions to the side and talk through them. This will make things a lot easier as long as both sides take the chance to put their emotions aside for a while and actually talk things through. There's also the fact that when it comes to the antagonism, it's usually the Cancerian who takes the first step towards complaining, usually because they become upset about something and they decide, oh well, I need to argue to get a resolution. Think before you speak. Saying to the Scorpio, if you feel upset or annoyed about something, think before you speak. If it does get to you a bit, just turn around to your partner and say, and this is to both the Scorpio and the Cancer, turn around to your partner and say, look, we need to talk. I don't want to make an argument of this, but we need to find a resolution to this because I feel blah blah blah. And then you explain yourself and try and reach a resolution. If your partner becomes a bit hostile due to it, then they need to grow up, basically. They need time to actually mature. As long as you reach a compromise, though, the emotions can basically become fantastic. You've got to look at the fact that different people have different perceptions. In the relationship, yes, you will both have different perceptions on what you think is right for yourselves. If it becomes disbalanced on either side, it's like a case of gaining that balance back. To further go into that balance, usually Cancerians create a secure atmosphere, which Scorpio can easily give, due to Cancerians being the shelled being looking for defences. The Scorpio being the offensive defence can allow you to feel more comfortable by heightening your defences. That's when you come to the Scorpio love power, and any Scorpio who denies that is lying, to be fair. But it's one of those things, it's not necessarily what people would perceive as power, but Scorpio like having some form of control in the sense of power, whether it's their own lives or other people's lives or whatever. And Cancerians usually submit to that and allow them to have that power and let them work within unity. This can be positive until, as I mentioned before, the emotions, when they become out of balance, the Cancerian can have the defences taken away by the Scorpio walking away and leaving them to fend for themselves for a while, or the Scorpio's power can be taken away by the Cancerian challenging the, well, subtle authority, if you get me. That doesn't mean to say that the authority is negative, it's sort of like the control is there for more positive reasons. It is a power balance, which most people would say is not balanced, whereas the actual balance doesn't necessarily mean the power has to be equal. It means that the power has to balance the weight on each side. But yeah, it's usually the Cancerian that does start the arguments, and usually the Scorpio finishes it, but of course it's a case of sometimes it can be the opposite way round. All in all, the relationship is a challenge, and if you face it and work at it, the relationship can work really, really well. You can work well as a team as long as you work together. This is a case of you will need to both understand each other, become part of a dynamic duo, and let each other become who you really are. In that, it can be a good relationship. And as I mentioned before, it's chaotic, so it can either be pretty fireworks or a big mess, black smog on the floor due to crashing into each other. But in the end, it's up to you to make the effort to make it work. Right, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, or whatever you like, and visit my website and Facebook page linked below. See you soon.